Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. This is season 3, episode 6, and we are recording this on Sunday, February 6, 2022. And right now, this episode is scheduled to go live on Monday, March 7th. 2022. My name is Collin. I am a teacher, tarot, and oracle card reader, and I'm also a singer and guitarist in the band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking, and it transforms their lives. And I am in beautiful, sunny San Diego, California.
And we want to thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Castbox, or Overcast. And we want to thank you for watching us. If you're watching us right here on our YouTube channel, we post a brand new episode to all those platforms every Monday morning. And we also want to thank you so much for liking this episode, for following, subscribing to, and reviewing us on your podcast platform, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. All of these things help other people find us, and we are very grateful to you for that. You can also leave us a comment if you're watching us on YouTube, or you can email us, no matter how you're listening or watching, at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week Stephanie showed me a piece of paper a few minutes ago and said, I found this great thing. And I said, stop, let's hit record. Then you can talk about that because it sounds great. So
awesome.
I
was listening to a video of Abraham's on YouTube. There's a gajillion. And there were some really interesting points that Abraham was discussing, and I really resonated with them. So I wrote them all down. And Collin, can you read that? Because it's in front of my face. I can't.
Yeah, it's legible. Do you want? Point of attraction. Do you believe it? Are you thinking about it? Are you anticipating it? Law of attraction. Are you going with the flow of it? Do you trust it? I probably didn't read those in the correct order, but
that's okay. But they're all good, right?
Yes.
So I like law of attraction, right? It just is. It's, we don't have to work it. It's just a law, universal law. It's what responds to everything that exists. And then point of attraction is what I'm doing with my thoughts, with how I'm feeling, because point of attraction, it's what I'm doing in this moment now. And law of attraction, because it's always on, it's working, it's responding to my point of attraction, to my focus, to my attention, to how I'm feeling. And so then, because I don't know about you, Collin, and everybody else, but there's certain things I do believe in. I don't even have to think about them. I just have this strong emotional connection. I trust it. I believe it. It just is. And then law of attraction is responding. So like winning the stuff that I win on the radio, I have more belief than doubt. And so it happens more often that I win than that I don't, compared to other people. But then there's things in my life that I struggle with. That, do I believe it? No. Like, let's say the abundance of money, being wealthy. I've softened my vibration over the years, and so I believe that I will be wealthy more now than I ever have in my entire life. I'm more comfortable. I met someone the other day, and right from the beginning, he started talking about this very wealthy friend that he had. And then about this person owning a large company and having multiple homes. And probably 15 years ago, I would not even been able to have a conversation with this person and be comfortable with them. But I was sitting across from this person while he talked, and I was like digging it. I was like right on board. Like, this is awesome. And I got to experience lifetime, like, wow, there would have been a time where I wouldn't even have attracted having a conversation like this, let alone be comfortable and inviting it in. And so, do you believe it, kind of thing? Are you going with the flow of it, like the whole art of allowing? Are you thinking about it? Like thinking positively about whatever it may be that we want to have, be, or experience. Are you anticipating it? Do you trust it? And so I wanted to talk about that because a lot of times I think, as I said, like some things, like, yeah, with the winning stuff on the radio, I do believe it. I do expect it most of the time. But then, some other topic, I mean, but do you trust it? No. Do you believe it? No. And so that, I think this kind of just, what I wrote on the piece of paper, what Abraham was talking, just encompasses the part that I want to practice more on those things where I have more doubt than belief. Just be like kind of checking in. So I wrote this down on a piece of paper and I've had it on my dresser. And every day, multiple times, I'll just kind of look at it and think about those things that I want to attract and allow into my life. And then just like do, and so half of the questions I say yes. A couple of them I'm like, no, I'm not quite there yet. Like, do I trust it or do I believe it? I'm like, no, I'm not. But so
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think that I didn't know that that was going to be a part of my process, but it definitely has been. There's just first off, I had to find out about the law of attraction, just learn what it was. Then I needed to learn what Abraham Hicks has to teach, which, if you're not familiar with Abraham Hicks, you can Google it. There are many YouTube videos. You can listen to her. But she basically talks a lot about the law of attraction, the art of allowing. And it's how I found out about art of allowing first. So, I mean, first I had to find out about these things and learn about them. But then what I sort of discovered as I started to practice them started to practice the art of allowing to work with the law of attraction, is that I started the beliefs that I had at that point as an adult before I found out about this stuff were very deprivation oriented, were very negative, were very about lack, there not being enough. I had beliefs about my own worthiness, like I don't deserve, nice things,
so many layers, right?
Yeah. But one thing I've definitely worked on, like I realized I needed to work on it and I have worked on it and it's paying off, is what you're talking about. Is part of it is not just practicing the principles or the tools. Part of it is getting comfortable around the things that you desire. When, like, if we have a dream and we're avoiding it out of fear, then watching someone else who's living that dream is a very uncomfortable experience. Hearing about somebody who's living that dream is a very uncomfortable experience. This is my thing as a musician, where I have a lot of really interesting conversations being a musician. People just share stuff that I don't think you would normally share with like a stranger, but somehow, because I'm a musician, people feel comfortable. But some people are super excited for me. Some people are really surprised and want to know about my music. They're interested. But some people like start on a like almost an attack mode with me, and they ask me like, "Are you making a living at your music yet?" Well, and I usually say no, not at the moment. And then they kind of go into, well, what's your plan? Like, what are you doing right now to get your And it's all this. And I know. Or I can at least guess pretty close that, I'm talking to somebody now who at some point in their life most likely wanted to be a musician themselves. Mm. They were told some beliefs about how they couldn't. They bought those beliefs. They hold them now. And now that they've bumped into somebody who is disproving their belief and is showing them that you can be a musician, they need to defend their position. Like, they're not ready to open up to their dream yet. It's still buried in them and they're still denying themselves that. So they have to, I'm the one reminding them of that.
And do you get into a debate with them, or do you just
not anymore.
Gently shift the conversation to something else, or do
I wouldn't call it a debate.
Chatting with you and then move on?
It depends on their level of fortitude. If it's a brick wall, like they just don't believe that people make money as a musician, or it's like a lucky few that are super talented and no one like me or them could ever do it. So if I can tell, and usually you can tell very quickly, I can tell very quickly by what they say, like how deeply ingrained it is. If it's a brick wall, I change the subject, because then it's just because now I know, or
kind of
I
like agree to disagree without even saying it.
Yeah. Or I politely excuse myself, because sometimes they want to keep talking. Even if I shut up, they'll keep talking about it. Yeah. And I don't want to hear it. But sometimes I talk to people and it's like they give me a little bit of that, but they also will say something like, man, I've always wanted to play guitar. Mm-hmm. And they don't close the door. And I sometimes, depending on how it feels, if the person seems open to it, I will say something like, well, you can. Yeah. And apparently no one else ever says something like that to them. Like, that
kind of reminds me of what we were talking about in friend time, when we were talking about, you were saying, men especially have this thing where they feel like they have to like have a goal and leave a mark. And you were saying, because of the foreign film you had just watched the other night, that it's about, or Lucy, the movie Lucy, where it's really about, we have an effect, whether we realize it or not, just by being who we are in life. And we don't have to leave this mark, or we don't have to finish this goal and achieve it to have lived life fully and have made a difference in other people's lives. And so exactly, you saying that to that person almost made me think of that, because it's like they could have taken that and for the rest of their life be like, in their mind, remember that conversation with you and be like, yeah, and this guy said like I could, and so then I did, or not, whether they took the action or not, but that you softened their resistance and gave them a little gem of hope, a glimmer of light of hope, like, oh, it is possible. And I think those kind of experiences happen all the time. I think it's interesting how, there's so many moments in life, and I don't remember them all, but there's some that do, and I'm always like, why did those, there can be like really not even that major, but why do I remember that specifically?
Yeah, and I think, because you talked in friend time also about the concept that Abraham Hicks talks about really well, called your point of attraction. And I think, because I firmly believe in the law of attraction. So if I attract somebody who comes up to me and is the brick wall, it's like, oh, apparently I still have a little bit in my vibration somewhere where I don't believe that I should be, otherwise I wouldn't have attracted that conversation. So the good part about sort of separating from that
person politely. That's a good point. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, separating from it politely is a way of, just continuing to move my point of attraction more towards like, I believe I can do this. I believe almost like there's that. Abundance. All that.
Thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. Even when I have those thoughts, I'll be like, thank you for sharing, because it wants to be acknowledged, right? Right. And then it gets quiet after
but
that.
Really but really what I'm doing there is trying to gauge, and I can't do it perfectly, obviously, because I'm human, but as well as I can, I'm trying to gauge their point of attraction. So if their point of attraction is like brick wall, people just shouldn't be musicians or whatever, then that's, I don't want to meet that point of attraction with my point of attraction, because I'm going to go down, but if somebody has an opening, like they say, oh, I always wanted to play guitar, to me, that means their point of attraction is a little higher than the brick wall person, at least. And I have an opportunity, just like you said, to like, well, this person attracted me into their life. And that means they raise their vibration a little bit with possibility, and I can assist them if they want to. I can give them the opportunity to continue to sort of bring their point of attraction to higher and higher levels if they want. I've learned very carefully, or very well, I should say, to be careful with that, because it's just dangerous whenever I get attached to any outcome of any action I have like that. It's just that, but definitely my job is to like, it's exactly as you say, because you never know. I never know. I might say something and it's years later that they do something about it or whatever, but they remember it, so it's not like they go out and buy a guitar the next day and play guitar. It's more like there's something in them that's trying to raise their vibration to where they can give themselves permission to do something they love. And I'm one little part of like, yeah, go for it, and they can either take that and keep going up, or they can, for a lot of us, it's a up and down process, but
And also, kind of like where you were talking in friend time about the impact that we have on others. Like in that moment, you are being loving and supportive to that person,
Exactly.
and that's like what it's all about, right? Like
Yeah.
just it just feels good. It's enjoyable in the moment, and we
This
just never
whole
know what the impact that we have on others.
this whole discussion also, I've been thinking about this concept for at least a year and probably more. And I'm like, where can I talk about this? And I'm like, here we are. Here we are in this conversation. Because I haven't heard anybody else talk about this. I think it would serve us so well talking about the law of attraction with regard to money and finances and the art of allowing with regard to wealth, money, finances. If we stopped using the word expensive, because if
Mm-hmm.
you think about the word expensive, it doesn't really have any intrinsic meaning to me. Like what theoretically people are trying to describe is they feel like the price to pay for something, whether it's a service or product, is high. And it might be like it's too high for them, or they feel like it's like the person who set the price made a mistake and set the price higher than the actual value of that service or item. Like I hear people, when I was in New York City, I used to hear about people complaining a lot about the cost of alcoholic drinks at bars in New York, because they felt like, if I can drive 2 hours and get a margarita for $5.50, why am I paying $13.50 in Manhattan for that same thing? That's really expensive. And I think what they're talking about there is like they feel like the bar has made the price more than the value of what they're paying for. But whenever I use the word expensive and whenever I hear somebody use the word expensive, it's almost always talking about what I'm really saying is like, I can't afford that and I probably never will be able to afford it.
Mm.
And I'm giving this point of attraction of like, that is beyond my means. I will never be able to afford that. That's too expensive. People
Mm.
complain all the time about the housing prices right now I have friends in San Francisco, I have friends in New York City, I have you in San Diego,
Yeah.
obviously I live here in Los Angeles. People are constantly complaining about the price of the rents and the houses and homes here and in these big cities. And I get it. They've grown over time, just like
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like
Some
when
more than
people,
others. Yeah.
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 But when people complain about like, oh, it's so expensive, I just feel like there's this whole energy to that word that's like, it's beyond me. I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I'm just like, man, from an art of allowing standpoint, we're trying to go the other way. We're trying to say,
So then you bring up this subject. Thank you.
mm-hmm,
Because it reminds me, I was at a shopping center a couple weeks ago with a friend, and we were going to see a movie. But beforehand, we wanted to walk around the mall, and then we went into this store,
mm-hmm,
and they had quite a variety, and had men's, children's, and women's. And I was surprised. I always thought they might have been like a little more expensive store, and the prices
mm-hmm,
were wow. I was just surprised. A lot less than I expected, or I thought they were. And then the sale rack, there were like pants for $8, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to come back here and when I have time to shop. Then we kept walking, and then we walked into another store, and I saw a top that I really liked, so I pulled it off, and I was like, oh, that would look cute on me. And I looked at the price, and it was like $58, and I was like, and I told I'm like, this, because it just was like a little t-shirt, and
mm-hmm,
I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, I thought it was overpriced.
mm-hmm.
And so my friend pulled off something, and then she was looking at this jacket, and it was $150. It was long, and she's like, oh, that's really cute. And we walked out of the store, and I said, I wouldn't pay $58 for that top. I go, however, I'm looking forward to the day when I have so much financial abundance that if I see something that I want, I can just buy it. Like that
Yeah.
jacket. If I wanted it, I could buy it. Or that top. And so I feel like my consciousness has shifted enough to where I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to have, I intend to have so much financial abundance that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can shop for that bargain and buy those $8 pants. And then I can go into the next store and be like, I love that shirt. Looks like but it's super cute. Yes, I'm going to pay $58 and I'm going to buy that 150, So to be able to have the freedom that I get to choose. And sometimes I buy things on sale and I love to get a bargain. And other times I buy something of quality and it is priced at a much higher level, and I can freely do whatever I choose and feel comfortable about purchasing either and both.
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed is that the more financial abundance I allow into my life, the less I use that word. And
very nice.
The folks that are in my life that are very financially abundant, I almost never hear them use it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because they don't think that some things are unfairly priced too high. I've heard them say that like, oh, I don't really think, but that's usually what they'll say. They'll say something like, that doesn't really seem worth the price.
Right.
And that's different than someone in a deprivation kind of mindset going, oh, it's too expensive.
Right.
Because
it all comes back to value too. Like what we value.
But the other thing is like the wealthy person who's saying that doesn't seem worth the price is not making any statement about themselves. They're talking about the product, the price, and fairness. Like it's all about stuff other than them. Whenever I use expensive or somebody else in my life uses expensive, I feel like it's about the thing and the person saying it. It's about like, I can't get that. It's too expensive. Or like some sort of accusatory thing, like, oh, like the company that makes this doesn't want me to have these nice things, so they made it too expensive for me, And again, that whole mindset. It could be
the other way too. It could be the other way too, where they don't see the value in it, and they just think it's too expensive.
Yeah, I gotta say, most times when people say it, it's with this sort of like personal disgust or frustration. Like when I hear wealthy people say that doesn't seem worth the price, it's like they're making an evaluation of something that has nothing to do with them, But for when people say expensive, it tends to be there's some sort of friction about that's something I might want, I can't afford it, and that upsets me,
And so this is what I like too, is that, Abraham talks about this too, and I love it, is that a lot of us wait around and be like, well, when I have it, then I'll have the vibration of it. Then I'll be in that mindset of it. And they're like, you have it all wrong.
Yes.
Kind of like that, I'll believe it when I see it thing. And it's actually, works the reverse. Is like when I feel it and I believe it, or either one, then I will see it. I will experience it. And we have it backwards. And so it's like practice the vibration of it, practice the thoughts of it, get comfortable with it, and then it will be. You don't know how. I don't know how. I'm not.
I think that's the other great point that what you're saying brings up is ultimately the art of allowing is not about prices. Right?
It's about vibration.
Like if energy, my guess is that I would actually predict that at some point you're going to find a blouse very similar to the one you really liked, and it's going to be it's either going to be a gift,
or a price point that I feel,
or it's going to be like $8 at a different store. Now, somebody who doesn't know about the law of attraction, doesn't know how the art of allowing works, would say, well, geez, well, Stephanie got lucky. I mean, the only place everywhere I found it was too expensive.
Or that works for them, but it won't work for me. That happens to them. It won't happen to me.
Right. And I think that's more my point. It's like, it feels, we're talking about your point of attraction, which is like, what is your level of vibration right now? So what are you putting out right now? So that, and then that's going to determine things that you receive in the future, or you allow in the future. So if I go to a store and I see something I want and I get angry, even at a very low level, I say, oh, so expensive. The point of attraction there I've put in is like, I'm not going to get that thing. So I've put energy in the whole bucket of not getting it in the future. Whereas if I just say, if I don't comment on the price, I think that's sort of what I'm going for, is like, just when you see the blouse that you want, just say, that's amazing. If you look at the price tag and you can't that day, it doesn't make sense for you financially to spend that much money on that item of clothing, that's fine.
Or I
But
choose
leave that
not
on the
to,
side.
right?
Yeah.
Like I could have if I wanted
Yeah.
to. I can afford that, but it
Well,
was
I like how you said it. Is like, you said I wouldn't pay $58 for that blouse, meaning I believe that blouse is not worth $58. Like the fabric, the work that went into it, all that sort of stuff. But I would love to have that jacket. Like, I feel like that jacket, even though that is a high price in some people's view, I would pay that because I like it that much. And I think that's the thing, is like, I know people are gonna, like, if we had 1 million listeners, I know I would get angry emails
when we have 1 million listeners.
Yeah, when. I would probably get some angry emails from people about, because I know there are companies that are like, shady, and they consciously know there's like a lack of something in the market, and they literally overprice things because they just know they can get away with it. Mm-hmm. And it's not ethical, but it's technically legal, so they do it. And I get that. And I'm not blessing that. I'm not saying that's a wonderful thing, but I don't think there's a lot of that. I think most things are priced at the market value, which means there's somebody out there willing, if they've marked it at $58, there's somebody out there who has the $58 who's perfectly willing to spend it.
And that's the thing. It reminds me, years ago when I was a personal assistant, I went shopping with a woman, and she never did anything on the first. I remember when we first met, we just had a conversation, and she was meet and greet. Usually people would hire me that day. Mm-hmm. I left. She didn't hire me. She's like, nice meeting you. Goodbye. And I remember sitting in my car going, what just happened? Like, she didn't hire me. I'm like, amazing. Why didn't she needed someone? She called me a few weeks later and hired me. What I got to see over time, we'd go into a store and she'd see something she'd like and it'd be marked full price, and she wouldn't buy it. And then we'd go back a month later and she'd get it on sale. That was a few things that I learned from her. Is like, don't do anything right off the bat. Just sit on it and wait. And then, but there's price points for everyone, right? That's why there's such a variety. It's like, you can choose to shop at Nordstrom's, or you can choose to shop at Kohl's, or anything in between. And there's all different people out there, and just like restaurants and food, we all get to choose, and it's just a matter of which one we want. And
I think that the main point I was trying to make is this observation that what you don't want to do if you're trying to practice the art of allowing. By the way, I think the title of this episode should be something like How to Shop with the Art of Allowing. Just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
But it's just that observation, like, if you go around, if you're in stores and you see things that you can't afford, or you think they're overpriced, make sure you don't make the mistake of getting into a negative vibration, setting your point of attraction at a low point and saying, "Ugh, that's too expensive for me. I'll never be able to afford that. Screw those people who set that price that way." Yeah. Don't get into that, because that is just going to
keep even just notice if we have those thoughts, right? Like, for me, it was just
notice them and let them go. Don't I didn't even know
I had some of these thoughts a long time ago, and now I'm getting more aware of how things feel and noticing the thoughts and being like, oh wow, look at that.
Well, your thing about this, it's from Abraham Hicks, but the 68-second thing about how you build momentum, the more you focus on something. I've been in and also overheard conversations with people. One person starts complaining about something they saw at a store that was expensive. And then the second person goes, "Oh, I know. Well, I was at this other store the other day and they were selling that for, that was ridiculous. That was so expensive." And then they're spending 30 minutes with trading stories.
And then you walk up and hear the conversation, and then you either change the topic or you're like, I'm going to go over here because I don't want to talk about how something is so expensive, because you're like, no, I can afford it, or, if I want it, I'm going to buy it.
Because not to make, everybody's a unique individual, everybody's different, but to make I think a reasonable generalization about wealthy individuals in general is they don't spend much mental energy on that issue. Yeah. They don't spend a whole bunch of time going, well, is that worth, what it's, what I mean? They probably make observations like everybody else.
And with
But
everything, there are exceptions because I know there are wealthy
oh
people out
yeah,
there who are like hanging on to their money
oh
so
yeah,
tightly for fear that they will lose it or that
yeah.
they can't build it again. And so they're just, or they come from a deprivation, either their parents
Yeah.
lived through, you know,
Well, again, this is what's interesting about the art of allowing and the law of attraction to me is like, again, it's not about the number, right? It's like you allow in what your wherever your point of attraction is, that's what
mm,
you're going to attract in the future. So it's like if I have $1 million in the bank, but I'm thinking all day about being scared of losing it, I'll probably lose it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If I
Yeah,
if
you're
I keep
attracting
that going
that
too
because that's
long,
your point of attraction, right? Your
yeah.
focus, your attention.
And a
Yeah.
lot of people think that, if I just had $1 million in the bank or I just had $3 million in the bank, I'd be fine. But I've actually realized recently, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a big one of those mass millions, $252 million lottery, U.S. national lottery
Oh,
jackpots. People hadn't won in several weeks, so it got built up to this absurd number. And I was in a group of acquaintances, and they were talking about it, and people were doing what they do a lot, which is they're sharing their fantasies of, if I won the 252 million, what would I do? And I was gonna contribute, and then I realized, you know what, just today, when that conversation was happening, I was like, I don't believe that my vibration is up to 252 million.
mm,
And therefore, if I bought a ticket, I probably wouldn't believe that I would win. B, even if I did manage to allow in the winning,
mm-hmm,
when I got the 252 million, if my point of attraction is way far below that,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to lose a lot of it. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Or
wow,
spend it quickly, not lose it, but spend it
yeah, it'll go
quickly
away.
here or there,
It'll
and
go away
it'll
somehow.
because our vibration isn't up to
And if
that
you read
speed.
stories about and the statistics on those types of large lottery winners, the ones that win like 100 million or more in the United States over the last 20 years, it's a trail of tears. It's like almost everyone blows it within the first, I think the average is in the first 7 years, most of them do not have any of the winnings left.
So here is something for that, an antidote for that, at least a little one.
Yeah.
I remember going to the lottery office years ago and just kind of looking around, trying to feel the vibration of it. And one of the employees walked out. I think this was at the beginning of COVID, and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm just, "Oh, I just was looking around, da da da." And we get to chatting, and I'm like, "What what would you suggest, the lump sum or the annual payments?" And he goes, "Well," I think he said something, "legally, I can't tell you
Mm.
what to choose." But then we began to have this conversation. He said, "If it was me, I would pick
Yeah.
the annual
Yeah.
amount." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because that's a large amount of money."
Yeah.
He goes, "It's going to take time for you to get established."
Yeah.
He goes, "What are you going to do with that amount of money?" He's like, "There's going to be people coming at you and they're going to want you to invest here and do this and that." He goes, "This way, to give you a whole year to settle in to that amount.
Yeah.
And then the following year, you're going to get another check.
Yeah.
And you're going to get that for whatever, it's a 22 years, 26, whatever, how many years." He goes, "What, you don't need $252 million at once. No one does." So
Yeah.
I loved his viewpoint on that. And
Yeah.
and ever since then I'd be like, yeah, I would take the annual payments.
Yeah. I've heard that before as well, and I totally agree with it. And that's why, for me, I've been increasing my financial allowing every year for several years. And it's like
Yay.
when I heard that lottery conversation, I was like, you know what, I'm good. Not because I don't want to welcome in a whole big check. If the universe feels like I can handle it and it wants to send it to me, I'm happy to have it. But I'm like, I've got what I can handle,
Yeah.
and I make more money per year than anyone in my family ever did that I can
Yeah.
recall. And that's amazing, but it's also, that means that like I was raised with a mentality that doesn't equip me for what I make today. And so like I needed to get comfortable with the normalcy of this level of abundance in order to keep it, And I think that's something that people just miss is like, you can, again, they get caught up on like, if things were just less expensive, or if I just had more money in my account, and it's like, yeah, I get why everybody thinks it's that way, but it's actually more about your point of attraction. Like, are you feeling good and putting out positive vibes? Because then you're just going to attract what you want into your life. The price isn't going to matter. How it happens isn't going to matter. If you're putting out like, I don't have enough money, things are too expensive, I need to win the lottery because I'm screwed, like that is going to attract
that's not the energy,
negative
the thoughts,
situations,
the focus of allowing it in.
So,
I just want to really quickly say I think it's season 3 episode 2, just a few episodes ago, infectious state of joy, and we talked about expressing our emotions, like how we just kind of contain ourselves. And so I just want to say, I was listening to that episode the other day and I was like, oh yeah, we said we were going to do it. And I had it just naturally happened, or I just did it. I was hiking with a friend and I was super happy. And I just thought, oh yeah. And I just like raised up my arms and I yelled out, I'm so happy. And she looked at me like, oh my God. She's like, somebody's happy. And then yesterday I was walking with Nibbles and I was just so happy.
Who is your family's dog?
Yes, my granddaughter's dog. And I'm looking at some flowers and they were beautiful. And I just had this overwhelming joy. And I'm like, I'm going to do it now. I'm like, raise up my hand. I'm so happy. I yell it out. And I'm on the side of the street and this car comes down the street. And as I say this, I look over and this passenger in the car looks at me and smiles. And so people are open to doing it, so I just wanted to say I got that done.
That's awesome. Yeah, as I mentioned to you in our friend time before the recording today, I totally forgot that we agreed to that.
Me too. And then I happened to be listening to that episode and I'm like, oh yeah, and so I wrote a little note.
I would also I've taken a note here, I would like to do an episode where we talk about speed, like the speed of things arriving. Because I think that's a whole other thing. We hit on it a little bit with the lottery, like getting a lot of money quickly, but I feel like the speed of how the universe works and how much of that is up to us is a good topic. So
yeah, that is a great conversation.
All right. Well, let me get my closing script up here. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of our podcast. Thank you so much for liking this episode. For following, subscribing to, and reviewing us on your podcast platform, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. All of these things help people find us, and we're very grateful to you for that. If people want to find you, Stephanie, on the online interwebs verse, where do they go?
www.powerinjoy.com, and also on Instagram, PowerInJoy. I look forward to chatting with you.
And you can always follow me and send me a direct message if you want on Instagram. I'm at Collin_Daniels_Worster. Collin has 2 L's in it, and Worster is spelled Worster. I'd love to hear from you. You can also leave a comment here on the YouTube video. We read all our comments here. And or you can email us at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again right here on Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.